In our devotional thought from the New Testament today, we're looking at the parable of the talents in Matthew chapter 25. And it's a beautiful parable about the rewards for the faithful and what happens to the do-nothing people. Now, I want you to notice verses 28 and 29. Then he ordered, "Take the money from this servant and give it to the one with 10 bags. To those who will use well what they are given, even more will be given." Did you hear that? To those who use well what they are given, they will be given more, and they will have an abundance. But to those who do nothing, even what little they have will be taken away. Now, key on that phrase, for those who do nothing. Now, think with me for a moment. The people who are faithful in this parable receive more responsibility. Verse 21. The master was full of praise. "Well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling this small amount. So now I will give you many more responsibilities." Faithfulness always brings more responsibility. Faithfulness is the key to promotion. Now notice also in verse 23, the one who had received less talents but had also been faithful, the master says the same thing. "You've been faithful in handling this small amount, so now I will give you many more responsibilities." You see, it's not the amount that you're handling, and it's not the amount that you produce. It's the fact that you have been faithful. Faithfulness brings promotion. And faithfulness brings a good relationship with the bosses. To both of these men in verse 21 and 23, he said, let's celebrate together. But now we have to look at that do-nothing guy. And please, all of us have worked in offices with do-nothings. Even in the ministry, we find pastors that come along that are do-nothings, all right? They're just do-nothings. Now look at verse 26. The master replied, "You wicked, lazy servant, if you knew I'd harvested crops I didn't plant and gathered crops I didn't cultivate," he said, "then why didn't you go put the money in the bank so at least I could earn interest?" Now he challenges this man's attitude. He said, if you knew this, he said, if you really knew this. Now notice if. He said, you know. No, he didn't say that. He said, if. In other words, the master was not a hard, nasty man. He was just challenging this guy's attitude. He said, if you really believe this, then you would have at least stuck the money in the bank. He said, that's not what you really believe. He said, this is what you shoot your mouth off and say, but that's not what you really believe, because if you really believed it, you would have at least put the money in the bank, because you know I'm a hard man. But see, you didn't really believe I was a hard man, or you wouldn't have been so lazy. Now, what was the real problem with this do-nothing person? He said, you wicked, lazy servant. Now, brothers and sisters, there are people in this life that are they're just lazy. And they don't want to work. Proverbs says, a lazy man thinks he's wiser than 7 counselors. Lazy people always think they're so smart, but they're do-nothings. One of the things you had to recognize about a lazy person is they're do-nothings. They're never going to accomplish anything. They're do-nothing people. Ladies, you don't want to marry a do-nothing. Whoa. Moms and dads, you don't want to raise a do-nothing. You want to teach those young men and young women hard work and discipline. You don't want to raise them, everything is easy. You don't want to raise them to be do-nothing, to just sit around and play video games and never do anything. You want to teach them responsibility. Now, straight up talk. Do you want promotions in life? Then just be faithful. Well, I don't have much to be faithful with. It doesn't matter how much. It matters the attitude. If you are faithful with whatever little you have, God brings promotion. But if you're just lazy and you want to blame everybody else and make up excuses and badmouth the bosses because of your laziness, it just shows you're a do-nothing.